Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing great. We are
Hello.
super excited to have you here with us. Welcome to our amazing discussion after catching those amazing films all about one pandemic, all the films. There's two films that are currently showing, and you have until 9:30 to catch them. That's Face Masks for Sale and T Minus, which did not air earlier on. So make sure you catch them. I am Damaris, your moderator for today, and I take this pleasure to invite our amazing filmmakers of the day. We have David Waronja, the filmmaker behind the film Automedic, which is also the film that won the Film of My Kenya, My Story mobile film competition, right? And it's about a young man who's left to look after his sister,
Yes.
his little sister, after he crafts a life support system powered by a truck. And then we also have Face Mask for Sale by Neha Manoj Shah, a story about a single mom in this pandemic times who has no choice but to survive. And it was shortlisted for Ladima Film Competition. We have Frontliner by Safina Iqbal, a story about a nurse in this pandemic and how just being at the front line turns her family's life upside down. We had The Tempest by Ross Franks, about a dancer, Dabila S, expressing how COVID has changed her family and her personal life. It's a positive piece on staying optimistic. We also got to watch Love Zawadi by Wambui Gathee, and it tells a sad story of how the pandemic and lockdown restrictions put some vulnerable women and young girls in positions where the life-threatening situations outside are better than the safety of their own homes. And it was also shortlisted for Ladima Film Competition. We also got to watch Music Has Fallen by Stephen Ochieng, better known as On Divo, meaning on the go. I found that out. And it's a short documentary following the life of Kevin Otieno, an audio producer who saved his music recording equipment after the heavy floods of April 2020. And you'll also get to watch T Minus, which is available today up until 9:30 p.m. It wasn't able to show. And it's a film that explores the mental and physical challenges that most of us are going through in this pandemic lockdown, work from home season. Welcome, guys. It's great to see you all. Yeah, karibuni sana. Super glad to have you here with us. All right, so maybe you could start by telling us what inspired your film idea. You know, is it something you watched or read? Is it something you experienced? And basically, is there any particular film that inspired the style of your film or genre? Because the films we've watched are all tied to the pandemic, yet the stories are told so differently. So, what inspired your story? And is there any particular film that inspired you? And I'm seeing one boy is not here with us. So maybe, Neha, would you like to start for us?
Yeah, sure. So this pandemic has been tough on everyone in different ways, from children to women to men, and it's even harder for pregnant women, especially because they're trying to avoid hospitals so that they don't pass the virus to the children. And I found it very interesting because a lot of my friends are pregnant during this time, and they were so scared and worried, and I didn't know how to help them because all I could do was be on the phone with them. I couldn't see them because we were doing social distancing. So I was inspired. I was inspired by their pain and their fears and their troubles. And I thought, why not show this through film? And maybe other people can understand why they're feeling what they're feeling. Because sometimes it's very difficult to explain to people about fear, about trying to protect yourself and your unborn child, and also your children as well. So yeah.
So great, thank you for that. On Divo, what inspired you to do this story?
Okay, being an artist, born and raised in Kibera, there's a lot of things that are happening in my neighborhood, and a lot that are happening in my neighborhood are always portrayed negatively out there with other filmmakers and storytellers, visual storytellers out there. So I was just taking a walk in my hood, and when I was walking, one of my friends who is an audio producer was just like sitting very like on a hill, and where he was sitting, he was like very bored. It's not like the way I used to see him every day. So I was like, what's wrong? Then he told me that, there's a dam that was open, and, there was it was a rainy night. So on that night, it rained a lot, and the flood washed away his equipment. And I was like trying to be in his shoe. He's a producer, I'm a producer. We are both producers, but in a different angle, you see. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, how are you going to manage it, especially during this time of the pandemic? And because a lot of youths are really fighting so hard on how they can just like have their survival for a day, especially here in Kibera. So I was like, how are you going to do it? Because it's very difficult to get equipment now, especially now that the little money that we are making are just for at least you can eat. So I was like, what's your plan? And he was like, he doesn't have a plan. What he will do is just take his equipment and just air them out. If fortunately they will power, then he'll continue with his job. Then I was like, okay, can I document it? Maybe I can document the story and share it with my friend, so that at least somebody out there might want to chip in to support you wherever it is. So he was like, yeah, sure, you can go on. So I was like, oh yeah, let me start this story. By that day, I was just, I didn't have something to do, and I didn't have a camera, because most of my stories that I do, I don't have equipment for the film. So I had to borrow my friend, she's called Jackie Lebo, her equipment to come and film this story. And she was just like open for me, and she gave me the equipment, and I came in with the equipment in Kibera. So I was filming night and day. So editing and coming back and asking him and telling him they're part of the stories that I feel are missing. So I was just following him up. Because he's a neighbor, I was able to even stay with him at his place. So I feel like
Nice.
what
We'll
inspired
get to the
me is his
process in
journey.
a bit. Yeah, we'll get to the process later, a bit later. We're just talking about
Yeah.
what inspired you. So maybe David, you could tell us what inspired you to do your for your story idea, Automedic.
Hello, everyone. And first of all, let me congratulate everyone for the amazing work. Those were amazing films, although I haven't gotten to watch all of them. What really inspired me is we felt the need to tell our stories as they are. And one of the things that I look at when I am scripting for a story, I look at what is affecting my people, my community, my village. And we have a lot of people in our village, in our community, who cannot afford basic standard universal healthcare. And we have a lot of people who had to get their loved ones, their family members from hospital because of the whole COVID issue, retrenchment. They cannot afford to have them stay in the hospital and all that. And so I was really intrigued by the thought of a person who has no financial income, and yet they have to look after their loved one. And so I decided to kind of approach the story from that perspective of a family member who is sick, and you have to look after them. You have no resources, and so you have to create your own means to, sustain them.
Great. Safina, what was the inspiration behind your story?
For Frontliner, interestingly enough, I'm a nurse in training. I'm an actual nurse, and I feel for this pandemic, we've heard about essential services, we've heard about frontliners. But as a frontliner myself, and seeing my friends having to go through quarantine every 14 days, I've had friends sleep in their cars so they
We
don't
can't hear you clearly. Can
interact
anyone
with their
hear her clearly?
families. Um, Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying on us by training, and that
Yes,
was,
but you're not very clear. I don't know if everyone else can hear you clearly. Can you guys hear her clearly?
Can you hear me now, Damaris?
Can you guys hear Safina clearly? If not, she can sort her sound. And I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Okay. So I was saying, I am an us
Okay,
by
let's try and
training.
sort that out. As we sort that out, maybe
Alright.
the rest of the filmmakers can tell us about the creativity process. In line with this film, how was it for you? Given the chance, is there something you could have done differently? David, perhaps I'd like you to comment on the choice to use a single shot plus the use of Gikuyu as the language of your film.
Yes, thank you very much. We initially, when KFC gave out the call for entry, we got into things right away, and we started with doing some location recce. What I usually do personally when I'm writing, I like writing for locations. I love writing for people who I know. I also like writing about things that I know. So in line to that, we did a lot of location recce, and we got a story, and we wrote for that story for the next few weeks. We did a lot of pre-productions. When we got to shoot it, we did several scenes, and on the last week, the Sunday, and Sunday 29th, yes. One of the actors couldn't make it couldn't show up for the last scenes. So we had to quickly come up with another story, and that is how we came up with Automedic. So to answer the question of the one shot, we needed to compromise on the lots of work that would come in the post-production process. And so we thought of a simple story, one location, less minimum crew and cast, and also try to invest more in filming it so that we can have an easier time during post. So we came up, we wanted to make the filming process easier. And so we tried to limit the shots. Initially, it wasn't supposed to be a one take, but I wanted the intro part of it to be a one take, like the first 1 minute to be a one take. And so that is when my producer, his name is Njuguna Nganga, he thought of why not having it as a one shot. And so I thought about it. We got to location. We looked around it and tried to figure out how it's going to work. And then we went back on that Sunday, and we worked on the script because we needed to marry the whole cinematography of the story with the script. I didn't want it to be just a one take and say, yeah, we did a one take. It's a one take. We achieved this, but I needed it to be intentional, to be in line with the story, and also to kind of enhance the intentions of the story, to enhance the performance, because this is a story of a young man who's trying to solve a lot of things, and he had to make a lot of decisions in a split second, and we thought doing it in a real time was going to be one, save a lot of work in post, and two, enhance the story and bring it out more, no cuts, no nothing. We needed to show the whole thing from the beginning to the end. So the creative process was a little bit influenced by the amount of time that we had because we had like a day to shoot and also like 12 hours of editing. And so with that, we decided to do a one take, and also the story largely influenced the creative decisions that we had to make.
Awesome. Wambui, are you here with us? Maybe you can tell us what inspired you.
Hi. David, is just two of us now.
Okay.
Let's have a conversation.
Yes.
So did you shoot this in one take?
Yes, initially we wanted to execute it in one take, but as I learned a lot about how the film is going to turn out, as I was reviewing the footage on set, I kind of noticed that some part of the whole film is fine, the pacing is okay. Some parts are not okay, and that made us do a lot of retakes. And as we were about to run out of time, I then decided, okay, fine, it's going to be a one take, yes, but I'm going to steal a bit of the film from this take and another from another take. And so we had 3 clips that made the whole film. That was, we used what we call a seamless cut, that is teaching in post. So whenever you see, it wasn't a one take. We didn't film the whole thing as a one take, because in post we did a lot of cutting. There were 3 cuts, seamless and hidden in there.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
I seriously thought you did that.
Awesome.
You practiced and then
We practiced. We had a lot. We had around 168 takes. Not all of them were 5 minutes. Some of them were cut due to things like aeroplanes, lines, continuity, and all that. And so we thought, yeah, as much as we had several clips that were 5 minutes of the whole film, we needed to pace it more in post, and we had to steal a bit some parts of the film from different takes.
Awesome. Neha, tell us a little bit about your process. How was it like for you, in brief, and also given a chance, what would you have done differently while filming your story?
Well, following the government's directives, the social distancing, and trying not to have too many people, because this was in a very closed environment. I was very stressed before I shot this, and I was trying to figure out how, because she's pregnant. Kabuchi is pregnant. So I didn't want to be the person who got her virus. So when we were shooting, there was only 3 of us. There was me, my DOP, Wambui, and Kabuchi, and we tried to really minimize. And I guess we were all kind of being everything together so that she can be safe. I don't remember the second question you asked.
What would you have done differently as a filmmaker? You always learn from what when you're filming something. So what would you have done differently for this particular film?
Right. I think
if
I
at
would
all.
take more. Yeah, I would take more shots. I think I would take. I think the space was a bit too small. It worked really well for this film, but I would have liked to do a little bit longer and have more shots to really show her state. But again, we're very restricted in time and space and also crew, so we managed to do what we could within the circumstances, I guess.
It's looking good. Safina, are you back on? Maybe you can tell us what inspired you to do your story. Let's try and see.
I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
Can you?
Yes.
All right. So I was saying, I think during this pandemic, we've heard about frontliners and essential workers, but we never really understood what they went through. And since I am actually a nurse by training and professionally, I took it from that angle because I've had friends giving their cards where they don't interact with their family after exposure. I've had friends who had to go for quarantine after away for 10 days and you're re-exposed. But what really inspired me is I have one of my nurse friends is a cardiac nurse, and she basically does emergency intervention. And she had to do an emergency intervention on a COVID patient and knowingly expose herself. And half the department got after that. And these are the kind of stories I feel like need to be told properly. And that's what inspired me, basically my line of work.
Cool. Yeah, it's a really powerful story. I think I saw one of the comments when someone said, "Thank you for remembering the frontliners." Yeah, so they were thanking you for remembering, the frontliners. We actually know you were a frontliner. You were part of frontlining as well. Wambui, glad to have you back. We see you found a nice position now. Can you tell us what inspired you to do your film? Hello? Wambui, can you hear us?
Sorry, hi, can you hear me now?
Technical issues are part of our production life. Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry, my connection has been so terrible. I'm so sorry. My sincere apologies. So please remind me what your question was, because my internet has been so up and down.
So we're just trying to get down to what inspired your story.
Right. Our story was basically inspired by the struggle that women go through, especially during these COVID times where people are locked in their houses, right? Because of quarantine and being forced to work from home or stay at home because schools are closed. So female people being targets of either sexual assault or physical assault are some of the cases that have gone up. Like they've really shot up. So that's basically where our story came from, where the cases of people who are being, ladies especially, and girls and young girls being abused in their homes. And this is the space where you're supposed to be protected from the whole COVID nonsense, right? Like the whole COVID situation that is outside. So it's supposed to be your safe home, the safe space. But then you find yourself in a situation where you're being abused internally, right? So that's where the story came from, especially with all these cases that are coming up with young girls, even the school girls from primary and high school who are pregnant as a result of sexual abuse, or there's also physical abuse. So that's basically where our story came from. Yeah, because of the many cases that are happening, and basically it's a way of trying to get the girl child, or rather this story, out there so that it's addressed.
Awesome. So did any of you do any storyboarding given your, the short time frame?
Yes, I did a bit of storyboarding on first in the morning.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Someone said something? Yes.
So we did a little bit of storyboarding, kind of like we drew the house compound, and then I walked the actor on the points that he had to make following the story, and each point had the duration that he had to spend. If he was lying on the back of the truck, we gave him counts, like counts of 1 to like 100, and then he would know when we get to 100 the camera is approaching him, and other points, like when he was turning the generator, we gave him a count as well. Like he was supposed to, for the first time, he's going to turn it for like 10 seconds, and then he's going to go for his spawn, and then he's going to come back and then turn it for like 5 seconds. All that was on a mapping. And yes, so we really depended on storyboarding, so that the actor could see exactly what was in our mind and know where he was supposed to be at a particular time.
Okay, awesome. On Divo, now that yours was a short documentary, how was it like for you? How was your process before we get to the other people?
Okay, basically for me, I didn't do any storyboarding because I felt like it would have limited me with my story. So I was just like following my character randomly to at least get every good thing, anything either good or bad, so that when I'm sitting down while editing, I'll be able to now start cutting my story with a certain direction that now I'll be looking at it So I didn't restrict myself with storyboarding, and that's why I felt like it gave me a wider room to follow my character and get every step that he was going through. Yeah.
How many days did you follow your character for the your short documentary?
Okay, I filmed like for 2 weeks, but there was a challenge filming at night because it was during the curfew time, and it was very tight by then because it was it April around that time. So it was very, very it was very, very tough for me to go out and film at night, especially when cops are walking all over. So I was like arranging with my cast and
essential services.
Without a card, you can't do that. You'll be like, okay, tuoneshe card ya kazi. And that will be, So it was a challenge, but at the end of the day, my character was always available when I gave him a call. So when I was like, we always plan at day that, okay, because curfew starts from around 7 to some certain time, it means that the police officers will not be around this place at this time. So if I call you, you can just come. We spend like 30 or 20 minutes, then you go back home. Because I didn't want also to risk his life. At the end of the day, our lives are more important than the stories we are telling again. Yeah.
Yeah. Wambui, do you want to tell us about your process?
Yeah, sure. For us, it took about say a week from pre-production to post-production. So basically, we saw the competition. It was for the Ladima Foundation. So we saw the competition and we're like, okay, so what story are we going to go with? And that's why, due to the cases that have been going on with girls being assaulted in homes during this COVID times, we decided to stick with that story. And basically the whole process was, it was, I would say it was smooth, but it was kind of smooth because of the team that I was working with. It was a brilliant team of about 5 people. And of course, due to the COVID guidelines and everything of social distancing and keeping the crew as minimal as possible, we went through with the whole story. And I can say that it was, of course, we did have challenges of, say, a little bit of budget here and there and a bit of restrictions in terms of the equipment that we used. But at the end of the day, we kind of came up with something really good. So we were proud. I mean, there was space for expansion if COVID was not around. But yeah, that's the process that we went through. Yeah, so it was good.
Okay. Neha, could you tell us about your process, whether you storyboarded? Because yours is it's a very interesting way of doing the short film that you did. And also, while you're at it, is there a scene you could have you could redo if you had the chance to redo it?
Yes, we did storyboard. Oh, sorry. No, one more. Carry on. Okay, so yeah, we did storyboard. Again, with the directives and Karoshi being pregnant, we had to be very we had to know what we're shooting. And she's not an actress, she's actually an artist at Masambili in Kibera. So for her to understand what I was visualizing and what I wanted, it helped that we went um, through the storyboard. And even if, like, I usually draw very funny stick figures, I still need to learn how to draw properly. But yeah, she kind of figured out, oh, okay, this is what you want, this is what you want. And I think after an hour of shooting, she was giving me exactly what I wanted, and it was pretty fast. And it was really like she was giving me her ideas and helping us to create something. So she was perfectly amazing. Once she understood what we were doing, and also seeing the shots we were taking, because when you're communicating and when you see, it kind of makes sense. At first, you're like, okay, what is this mad woman talking about? But when you see it, she's like, okay, I see what you're saying. That's what you want. You want me to break the charcoal stick. The second one was for the expansion. I think, this story is about pandemic, and we did it within the restrictions of it. Now, if we removed all of that, it becomes a whole different story. So I kind of like the restrictions. I kind of liked, because I had to be very creative, and I also had to think, okay, how do I do sound? How do I do production design? Because we were wearing many different hats, all of us, and we were helping each other out. The one shot I want to talk about, which was very impromptu, was her taking her top off. Sorry, guys, did I spoil it? Because no one's watched it. So she was changing to the yellow top I wanted, and the whole movement and her in front of
Yeah, don't spoil it too much because they haven't watched it yet.
I want to talk about it. Okay. But yeah, I just wanted to say that she was really helpful.
Okay, so no spoilers from Neha, because if you didn't make it to catch face masks for sale, you can catch it until 9:30 p.m. today because it didn't air. So there's people who did not catch Neha's film and the film T minus. They'll be online until 9:30 p.m. today. So before we get to Safina to tell us about her whether her process, whether she storyboarded and the likes. I'm seeing someone is asking David whether he used a drone. Yani David, your film looks so high budget. Paka inakaa ulikuwa na drone. So David, was there a drone or not? Then Safina can tell us about her process.
Actually, what we did, we had there's no drone. No drone.
Cool. Okay. Safina, tell us about your process, and if there's any scene you could redo, would you, what scene would that be?
So originally we wrote Frontliner for a competition, and so we were limited in terms of minutes. So to be honest, I'll just start with the latter question. I would redo the whole film because I feel what I really wanted to communicate didn't come out in the 5 minutes. In terms of process, so we were a crew of 3. So me, DOP, and someone who doubled up as production management. So we didn't do storyboarding because I write my stuff, and I am more of I go with emotional cues. I would say while we were filming, I was going with what do I want someone to feel at this time. So if we felt like dropping a top towards the camera at that time would make sense to the film, that's what we went with. So we didn't really storyboard. We were just playing. We wanted to touch on emotions as we went. So it was more of let's see with our starter at that time.
Okay, I think
Hello?
her internet is not letting her thrive today. So
I
let's
wanted to add
maybe,
something.
okay.
Hey, on Neha's point, she was talking about like how she was relating with her character. You know, basically what she's saying was right, because I feel when you give your character a lot of instruction, they feel confused, especially characters who are never actors before, you know. So whatever she's saying is the same that I was doing, because my character used to ask me a lot of questions like, hey, what should I do now? And I was like, okay, just live your life. Me, I'll just be following. Assume I'm not in this world, you know. At least from there, he or she will be very free and do whatever you want. And there's a question that I didn't answer about if I was supposed, if I was able to repeat, refilm my film. I think I won't
Yeah.
do that, but I feel like I was really limited with the sound, because you know all the sound in my film was recorded in a studio. I didn't have a chance to like record the original sound in the film because I didn't have a good mic. But basically, the way my character really told his narration was like really flowing so well with the story. And I feel like there are some scenes that I was missing. If I was able to like reverse the dates, the rain was raining, and get all that process, I feel like the film would have been very strong. But this is a documentary. I can't do the fiction part of it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. So like some of these stories are really like they go so deep, when we talk about themes in story, and sometimes we're never sure whether the chicken or the egg came first. Is it the theme or the story that came first? And I mean, like even in the middle of your stories that are tied to COVID, there's still several themes in there. And maybe a question, sometimes as writers, we, like for me as a writer, I'm afraid to go deep because sometimes you don't want to expose something about you because some people will say, oh, I think I saw you in that story. So maybe is there a part of you that you see in your character, in any of your characters, or in the story or in the theme? um so David, would you like to start for us? Is there something that tags at you in this theme, in the story, that is a part of you, or in any of the characters?
Yes. Yes. I think I relate
David,
to
you
with
can, if you can hear me,
the
blink
main
once.
character who's trying to.
Oh no.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly well.
Can you hear me?
Damaris, you're muted.
Okay. So as I was saying, one of the things that I approach whenever I'm writing a story is I ask myself how this is my story. How does it relate to me? And I tried to relate the main character with my own personal experience in one of the themes, that is innovation, because even in our filming process we had to innovate. And also, to answer the question earlier, whether we were using a drone, we had to innovate and come up with a way of simulating Steadicam. We had the Ziyun Crane 2. Essentially, it is a DSLR gimbal. It only supports DSLR cameras. And we had to figure out a way to have that gimbal stabilize a phone. So we had to hack a way to stabilize the phone. So we had the phone on a DSLR gimbal, and also to have the crane shot where the guy is on top of the truck, and also to have the shot from the top of the gate. We had the gimbal on a monopod. So we kind of made our own what do you call it, Steadicam. So in as far as innovation is concerned, I relate with the hero who's trying to make a homemade ICU bed with all that gadgets to life support gadgets. So that is how I feel that I relate with the story. I relate with our hero as far as innovation is concerned.
Okay, awesome. So, Neha, as you answer, the question on, what tags at you in, in your theme and your story, what's you there? Could you also tell us what made you decide to call your film Face Masks for Sale?
I knew that was coming. Okay, so I used to draw, and when I was in school, it was all about art school, and I wasn't the best, but I could draw. So if somebody sat in front of me, I could draw them. And I don't know what happened. I think the digital age, and I just kind of stopped drawing. And during the pandemic, guys were like, pick up hobbies, do what you've always wanted, but you've never had time. Yes, drawing was the first one. Second was reading. So I was trying to draw, and it was just, I look like a 3-year-old kid drawing. So, and it helped. It really helped coping because of the concentration, and you're just really focused on getting the form and the shading right. So that, and I love charcoal. And I think from there, it kind of brought in, okay, so women are going through what they're going through, and they can't scream and shout. So how can my character cope? And that would be through drawing. And the face mask, I'm going to talk about the ending. Is this okay? Wow, Damaris, I'm going to
No,
talk about
don't spoil. No spoiling. No spoiling. Stop.
Face Mask for Sale is going to
Stop.
kill the ending. So I am zipped.
Don't.
But yeah, charcoal. I love the charcoal.
Yeah.
The sound of the charcoal. That's the thing that really inspired me to kind of have it connected to her mental health and her mental state. As first she's drawing, and it's like nice, smooth, and then she becomes really rough, and it was just the sound of it was what inspired me. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So maybe Wambui and Safina, you could tell us where's my question? You could tell us, one of the most important lessons you learned while working on this film and how you're going to apply that to the next project. And then before you answer that, David could tell us, someone is asking, did you shoot your film on a phone?
Yes, it was shot on a mobile phone.
I need to learn how you do that because everything was in focus. That's amazing.
Okay. I know. Okay, so Wambui, do you want to start off by telling us, what lesson you learned, and how you're going to pay it forward in your next project, and Safina
Infinity
as well.
F22.
Usiwamake
Sorry,
tugure.
David. Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot in the power of just basically collaborating. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question because my internet is just breaking. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I hope I am. But yeah, I've just learned the power of collaborating and basically just pushing yourself to different limits, especially with during this COVID times. You're like, okay, you have this idea and you're just like, okay, how am I going to achieve it? I just advise that you just go for it. So I've basically just learned a lot from this one film that I've directed. I've learned how to work with the different crew because most of the time I am a producer. So this is the first time that I was directing a film, which was a bit nervous, a bit I was a bit anxious as well, but it came through. Just basically just knowing and learning that chemistry between different people, and just basically pushing yourself to the wall. Yeah. So I hope, Damaris, I've answered your question. I'm not sure if I got it. My internet is just
Awesome.
like up and down. I'm so sorry.
Awesome. Safina, you have answered the question, so it's good. Yeah. Safina,
Did
would
I?
you tell us what you've learned and how you're gonna pay it forward in your next projects?
I think for me, I learned two lessons. And as a filmmaker, I feel like most of the time we discourage ourselves from making stories because we feel like we don't have enough equipment. So Frontliner was also shot on mobile, and I felt like we were able to do so much with so little. And for me, that was a lesson. So I don't have any excuses in future not to tell a story because I actually did it on mobile. So equipment for me, I think, is a lesson I learned. I can work with what I have. The next lesson I learned, because I did write Frontliner, and during post-production, it was a struggle because our first cut was 15 minutes and I needed 5 minutes of film. I think what I learned is I need to write within my minutes because I pour myself into a script and then during post-production, it is just not working. And you have to let go the script, the scenes that make your film, and you're like, what is going on? So I feel like for me, I've learned like I have to write full within my minutes, especially if I'm writing for a competition, my scripting has to be tied in nicely. So that's what I've learned.
Gosh, yes, the scripting process.
Awesome. So we have two films here that were shot. David's film and Safina's film were all shot on mobile phone, right? Good job. Okay, so just to as we wrap up, because our time is done, finished, kaput. I'd just like to have your reflection of what it means. Okay, I don't know about Neha. Maybe you can say about being an Asian filmmaker, but for the rest of you, what does it mean to be an African filmmaker in this time and day? Because Chinua Achebe said that if we until the lion learns how to tell a story or document a story, the narrative will always praise the hunter. So for us as Africans, what does it mean to you being an African filmmaker in this day and age as we wrap up this conversation?
Damaris, can I also say that I am very much African and very much Kenyan? Let's not look at
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Karibu sana, okay. I didn't want to offend you in any way.
I felt very left out. I'm very much Kenyan.
Okay, so maybe Ondivo, you could start for us.
Okay, for me, I'll just say that being an African filmmaker gives us an opportunity to tell our stories the way we know them. Our stories have always been told, but there's ile kachumvi kinaongezwa kidogo. Like for instance, my story, I had a chance to tell it negatively, to show how Kibera is bad and all this and all that. But at the end of the day, I wanted to show that there is faith, there's perseverance, there's a reason to always believe in yourself in whatever you are doing. As an artist, if you don't believe in whatever you're doing, nobody will believe in whatever you're doing. So whatever the character, the type of life, the way my story was in terms of the journey that my character was going through, just showed me how I am also as a person. Because I never give up. If I was to give up, I would have given up long time ago. But if you keep on doing whatever you're doing, no matter how hard or difficult it is, you'll just hit the spot. Yeah. So it's good to tell our stories the way they are, in a way that it inspires somebody out there. Thank you.
Okay, so Neha, do you want to go next? Awesome.
Yeah, so people, we talk about the three acts in story writing, and the question that did come up, because that's more like a Western thinking. Do African stories have three acts? And I found that very interesting. Mine did. There was a beginning, middle, and end, and I don't know. I don't know how. I've always thought of myself as a filmmaker, not an African filmmaker. So, uh, I mean, film has to talk to everybody. Whether different race, creed, gender, it should speak. It's like art. There's no race or color behind art. It speaks to you, and I guess for us, yes, we have African stories, but they're also stories, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We're all quiet.
Cool. Safina?
I think for me as a filmmaker, and the angle you'll always see in my short films, because I do mostly short films, is I'm very character based, and I feel like as a filmmaker, you have, for me, it's about the true representation of each character you portray. So for Frontliner, it was an us, and I think one of the most interesting questions I had when we were screening Frontliner was which nurse wears scrubs and a stethoscope, and I found that very interesting. And I felt like it means as a filmmaker, you have to truly represent the character that you're portraying. So for me, like a frontliner, and having that question for me was like you have. When I wrote it as a nurse one, I wanted to truly represent who they are, and that's the angle I take in all my films. They're very character based. So if I take a teacher, I want to stay true to that, and that's what I feel like our story should be like. True representation, because that's what we struggle as any person, really, as Safina, as Neha. I think you always just want true representation of who you are as Wambui or Waronja. You want someone to represent Waronja as Waronja. So I think that's what filmmaking for me is about, true representation.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Wambui in few words and David in very few words. We need to wrap this up now.
Okay. So for me, basically, I do believe in the power of film, and basically, I do believe that film can actually change a society. So, for instance, if you're looking at different issues that need to be addressed in the society, I do believe in representing that in a film and just basically packaging that so that people can go on and talk about a particular issue that's affecting them across, and basically just causing that ripple effect. That is the main goal for me, honestly, with film, creating that change.
Awesome. David?
I agree with all of you, and I think what is common from our explanation of being an African filmmaker is having a story that is a true representation of you, a story that is you, a story that relates to you. Basically, as an African film maker, I try to think, when I'm looking for a story, I try to look what is within my reach, and all the times I find what is within my reach is a story that is true. And the definition of true is real, genuine, and authentic. And that is what we have as African filmmakers. We have real, genuine, and authentic stories. And if we approach them, definitely we are going to, be one of the best filmmakers in the industry.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This was it was super cool. I mean, I didn't think, we're even past time, So thank you guys for sharing so candidly about your experience on your films. We wish you nothing but the best on your next projects, and let's keep telling those great stories. Thank you for tuning in and watching this edition. Make sure you follow all these filmmakers to see how they get on with their filmmaking journey. It's real. See you guys. Peace.